Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream scene. It is great to have you guys. I hope you guys are ready for a really, really cool episode that I'm excited about. That I don't actually think we've really talked about yet. So I'm joined here by my lovely co-host, the Hunter Wild. Hunter, how you doing today?
I had a very refreshing weekend. I picked apples and then I ate some of them. It was so good. I've never been apple picking before. It was
Me
such a
neither.
refresher.
That's pretty cool.
Do you want to go? We can go at some
That
point.
sounds like a very nice adventure. I'm down.
It's very, very good. And it's really nice to come back then today talking about something. This is something that we've tried to do I think we tried to get a show together like this about a year ago. We've been really interested in settling in on this one. And now we finally get to do it. We finally get to do it with two incredible people. Two incredible broadcasters. We'll leave that up to y'all. BizSnes and Bennyfits. BizSnes, Bennyfits. How are y'all doing today? And if you wouldn't mind, for the folks at home, who are you? What do you do? What are you about? And why are you here?
Bennyfit, why don't you kick it off?
All right. Age before beauty, I guess.
Oh my.
So I'm Bennyfits. I'm not Bennyfits. Bennyfits is a character that I play. Bennyfits is a Muppet-style monster puppet that plays games, mostly shooters. He's blue. He's often confused for the Cookie Monster, though he looks nothing like the Cookie Monster. Nothing like him. And I stream like 5 days out of the week, and it's extremely physically strenuous for me to do it, but I love doing it. So.
Awesome.
I'm BizSnes. I'm a boy trapped inside of a video game console. I cheated death at Mortal Kombat, and he trapped me inside of this video game console. But my actual name is Joe Vella. I've been an improv teacher and comedian for about 17 years at this point. And you guys needed another camera on, and this looks way better than just a static picture. So I'm here hanging out too and watching. And talking. So
already better than me.
So
not true, Benny. Not true.
And did you guys mention how long you guys have been streaming for?
Oh shoot, yeah. I've in February it'll be 4 years for me.
And I'm getting close to 5 at this point.
Wow, that's awesome. So
did either of y'all stream or create content in this sort of fashion before those times that you gave, like in another format?
Oh no, like actually for me it was I'd never streamed before, but my wife had, and I had gotten this puppet for another purpose, and then I was just like that sort of fell apart, and I just thought, well, wouldn't it be funny if I could do this? Wouldn't it be funny? And then, now 4 years later, the joke is long gone, and I'm still doing it.
For me, it was I've always been trapped in here as a streamer, but roommate did more stuff on stage, like the improv comedian stuff. He was in a group called Worst Case Scenario that did like themed improv shows. So we did like improv games that were more related to video games. We did a zombie themed show, stuff like that. So it was pretty fun, but we were originally going to be a YouTube show where I had a different voice and Joe was going to be on the couch with me. But in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, it's really hard to get anybody to do anything when you tell them, hey, do you want to be the voice of a talking video game console for a YouTube channel? And they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So
I had no idea. I had no idea that was your origin story, because that was pretty much mine too.
Yeah,
it was. And it's the same problem. Try to get somebody else to help you with it. No, nobody's interested.
Yeah, nobody's interested. Like I had a script and it was called Single Gamer, and the whole idea was that this kid's parents won the lottery in like 1993 and bought the kid a Super Nintendo and then went world traveling and kind of left the kid alone, and the Super Nintendo became like his Wilson, essentially. And so it was like the parents just like never came back, and so like there was going to be like a Mr. McFeely mailman character that was going to bring games. Like the actual first episode was Joe going out on a date with the girl, and then me at home romancing the PC, because I think the time of consoles is over, and I think everybody should just be a PC gamer so that we only have to develop games to the PC requirements as opposed to like cuckolding them to the console standards. Because like it's not like it was in my time when like I was like the best of the best and like buying a computer that did what I did was like millions of dollars. Like with cloud-based stuff, like everybody should just have a PC so we don't have to like develop towards an Xbox or a Nintendo. But that's just my opinion. So that's kind of where it came from. And when I couldn't get that, I actually was also going to be a bar owner in Milwaukee. At one point, I owned 25 full-size arcade machines
Wow.
with two of my friends, and I didn't want to be just another bar owner, even if the arcade machines like made it cool. They actually just made it more work because they break
like a lot of things.
constantly. And so I was just like, buy me out, and I was bought out of that. I moved to Seattle and started streaming on Twitch.
I gotta tell you, I'm hung up on one thing in that whole explanation, and that is I'm actually Googling right now to see if you can actually use cuckolding in that fashion. I don't know that you use it properly.
Sorry. I just kind of go with what feels
Language is
right.
flexible.
Yeah, it's
Right,
flexible, right? New Zealish.
New Zealish.
That's really interesting. You guys kind of mentioned like one apparent problem right off the bat, and that was having to do this by yourself.
Soloing it, yeah.
How has that journey been for you guys to, because you're like me and Hunter, we're just people and we just react, right? But you guys have to be the character. I'm sure there's like some like tech that you have to do just to control the character, and then you have to also do the things that normal streamers do: read chat, read your alerts, play a video game. Like, how do you how did that like go for you trying to learn all that?
Yeah, like I struggle even just playing the video game and talking in any normal regular fashion.
I struggle just
words coming
talking.
out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So it's like you adding in so many other multitasking elements, things that have to be balanced. That sounds like a strange challenge.
That's actually the thing I like the most about what I do.
Oh yeah?
Because like I'm sort of an engineer at heart. I like to find problems and solve them. And so this actually presents me with just a ton of little problems that I've got to try to figure out. How do I key myself out of the shot? How do I control a game and control a puppet at the same time? How do I handle that problem? And actually, recently, I'll share a little bit of inside baseball. Recently, last week was Benny's birthday. It's not my birthday; it's Benny's birthday. Benny was born on the day that the NES was released in the U.S.
That's a good day. I like it.
That was the reason why his birthday is October 18th. We had a stream, and we had a stream for his birthday, and the morning of, I was like, wouldn't it be great if he had one of those little party blowers? The little that has little curl. Yeah. And so wouldn't it be great if he had one of those and like could blow it, on stream? And so I was like, well, I think what I can do is get some aquarium tubing, run it into the party blower, then run that tube over to me, and then I could just hold it up to his face and blow into that tube, and it'll blow the blower. So like I had no idea whether or not that would work. So I just went and got all the stuff, put it together, did a proof of concept. Like, yes, it works. Got it, put him in a tux so I could hide the tube going up his sleeve, and then sewed that into his hand. Like with a temporary stitch.
Wait,
That's so awesome.
So that night, like every time somebody would come in and say happy birthday, he'd take the thing and put it up to his face, and I'd blow on that tube, and it would blow. It worked perfectly, and I can't believe the way that people reacted to that. But just solving that problem, and seeing that it worked, and seeing that people like really bought into it, and like it was a big deal for them, like such a small little elegant solution, and it just changed the entire stream. And I love doing those little things.
I love that creativity. Like, I feel like you have to kind of really think outside the box to make solutions like that, because
the creative problem solving, yeah.
Because you always have to like innovate new things, right? Like, and you have to add an extra step.
But the thing is, like, that's actually like
the fun part.
That should be a no-brainer. Like that, obviously, that's how it's done, right? Like, why would you complicate it? It's as simple as just diverting like the source of the air away from where where you would normally do it. But nobody thinks about that because they just want to be a part of the show. They just want, it's like a magic act. Penn and Teller would say this, or Penn Jillette says this, you could probably solve, or you probably could figure out how any of these tricks are done, but you actually don't want to know. Right. You actually don't want to know. You want to be fooled.
It's Jim Henson called it the conspiracy of craziness, and it's
Yeah.
the more that you can get people to buy into an idea, to grow around it, and to believe in that idea. It's so much more fun than just saying the flat out honesty of it.
Yeah.
It's just like at the end of the day, everyone knows that I'm a video game console, with some lights in it. But when people come into my channel and they say, no, like he's actually this boy and he's trapped in here, like it's great. And it's that fun feeling of like, no, we're like all a part of this gag together. And it's such a more interesting world when characters like this are allowed to exist instead of being like, oh, I know that it's not real. It's like wrestling. Like, I know it's not
Sure.
like per se
Yeah.
real, but like the amount of energy that it takes to like throw yourself around that ring and not hurt the people that you're with, like it takes an incredible amount of effort.
And what you're saying, it sounds like the difference between like a poem and just a factual statement. Like you can just be like, hey, this thing's here's an object, or have this like really poetic elucidation of it, like buying into that whole system of a character in a world and building that
Yeah.
out and fleshing that out and having everybody else along for that ride seems way more interesting.
Yeah,
Right.
To kind of
And-
bring that around to the I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
It's all right.
Go. Okay. Well, let me just to bring it back around to that question. The question was, that. I'm sorry. The question was about the things that you have to do to try to do what we do, and I just had a thought as you were saying that, like, people buying into the idea of like, oh, you go to see wrestling, it's scripted. It's not fake. It's real, but it's
Right.
scripted.
Mhm.
Like the matches are scripted, but everybody buys into that. And the amount of like the training and the choreography and stuff that goes into it is worth it because everybody else is coming in and they've all bought into this fiction.
Right.
And everybody's having a good time. Not just the people that are watching, but the people that are performing as well are having a better time because we've all decided this is the myth that we're supporting here.
We've all decided, yeah. And so there's like a suspension of disbelief.
Right.
Yep.
Then
That
furthers
willful
that whole thing.
suspension of disbelief, and
Right.
it just, when people do that, it's great and it can be magical. And it's the same thing that happened with improv. Like whenever you ask somebody for a suggestion in an improv show, you have invited them to play along with you, and they then want to see how that suggestion is used, and it's then no longer your show, it's our show, and it makes it that much more personal of entertainment, and that's why it's great. So
Chat's really upset because we're dispensing all of the myths for them today.
yeah, right. Well, so one of the jobs that I used to have was I did set up for arena tours. So like we're talking like 22 semis of Rolling Stone stuff, but like then also the wrestling. And if you worked with the prop masters, it was called magic. You didn't use props in it, you used magic. And like there is that kind of magic about wrestling. Like of all the people I met, those wrestlers were always the nicest people and the most down-to-earth people and the people that love their fans the most, because like when you have wrestlers are characters, like at the end of the day, like each wrestler needs to have a character, and sometimes a person's really good at being like a heroic character, and sometimes there's people really good at being those heels that are good at being booed, and they want those boos because they want to be known as that bad guy, because it's an act, and it's so much fun when they buy into that, but like they still know that their fans are the life force of their industry and will stop and make time for them, and it's something really wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Buff theater kids. That's a great way to put it.
again, let me say this one more time. Wrestling's not fake. It's just scripted. It's not fake in any way. Like they're really out there throwing each other around. Like it's important to know that they're
not like astral projection.
Like it's not like, oh, no, that's just two fake dudes in there. No, like they're real people actually doing a thing.
It's
just scripted.
Fake humans doing fake moves in a fake ring.
Right.
Well, and it honestly, I think, takes more effort to not hurt people doing these moves.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, if you were to actually, if you were to actually do this to some people, like it would actually hurt them. But the fact that they can make them look this good, like, and not hurt each other, like it's an incredible amount of trust put in your, the person that you're performing with. It's ballet. It's an art.
To anybody just coming in, this is I'm Bennyfits and this is BizSnes. We are Twitch's first professional wrestlers.
Oh yeah.
I would love to see that.
But I'm one of those people that I came from the entertainment side of things, and I would, the worst case scenario shows, we would do one show a month, but we would practice for that entire month. Like, we wouldn't perform every week. We would practice and hone games and perfect things so that when it came time for that one show, it was awesome and it was different and it was unique because, like, we were all a part of this comedy sports show that was the same thing every single week. And it was fun. But like, if you want to do something that's a little bit different, it takes a lot of time, behind the scenes, that iceberg of streaming, what's above the water and what's below the water. There's just so much more below the water, but that's like the fun stuff for me because I love building stuff and I love lighting stuff and I love figuring out how to make things look unique. Like, it's not just about
sounds like for both
streaming a video game, like
literally.
I'm used to I know that streamers love streaming for 8 hours, but like, I come from that realm of like, if I work a commercial, like, I don't have to work for that week. If I do a private show, I don't have to work for that day, and I'm comfortable because I've made the money, and that's an hour-long show. Like, I should be able to work smart, not hard, and I would much rather spend like 6 hours behind the streams for something that's like a really good quality, like 2 hours, as opposed to just giving a mediocre 8 hours of streaming. So. I really love kind of the performance stuff. I grew up on Mystery Science Theater. Like, there's literally a picture of me in kindergarten behind a camera shooting Darth Vader. Like, I didn't want to be Darth Vader. I wanted to be the person shooting Darth Vader. And like, my entire life, trajectory has kind of brought me to, that a kind of job that has been both interactive, like both on stage with people, but also this kind of film Mystery Science Theater kind of vibe.
That's great. And so it seems like you've had a little bit of training to get into this role, right? It seems like that was kind of easy for you to become a character. Benny, what about you? Like, how has that been for you, like playing someone that's not you?
I have some acting experience. I actually used to be with a Shakespearean group. I used to live in the Northeast, and there was a group up there called Bill's Buddies. And what we would do is we'd take like scenes from Shakespeare and then translate them to like modern day English, and then do those scenes, like go and perform those scenes at high schools and stuff.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I high school plays and things like that, but and a little bit of training, but not nowhere to the degree that BizSnes is. But I also have kids, so there's a lot of like making funny voices and just doing,
that's true.
Doing crazy stuff with them.
So,
and that's why improv is important, because like adults need to continue to play, and like adults that don't have kids lose that, like adults, when they get kids, they finally start playing again because they're forced to, but everybody needs to play. And that's why Roommate loved teaching improv so much.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good point too, is that as a streamer, I'm seeing, you see that sort of gulf of people that come in that I'm now like, I've reached adulthood, but I haven't reached adulthood and have kids or whatever. And they're in that period where they've not yet gotten over themselves, and they're very much trying to take themselves seriously. And one of the things that I've said before is that the thing that you have to do is you have to learn to just go ahead and lift your leg up as high as you can and get over yourself, so that you can put yourself out there and risk like looking like a fool to make somebody else happy.
Right. You, as a kid, you're so fearless. Like you on the playground, you'll pretend to be anything. You'll pretend to do anything. And then like you get somebody a little bit older up on stage, and you try to get them to pretend to be a pirate. And it's literally like you have to pull their teeth out of their head to get them to do it.
It's why I'm happy that Robbie Rotten died a hero, because he did that, because he got over himself. Like I mean, he became like this big meme hero when he got cancer. And then when he died, it was a blow to the internet community. But this is a guy that did that. He got over himself, and put himself out there and made himself ridiculous for the joy of other people.
Well, and to show that there is like that side of like there's always a better way to look at things than just the negatives of things. Like even though you can be going through tremendous hardships, like there are still ways to spin it to have a good attitude about things. And not only will it make your life better, but it will improve the people around you and the people that think they're alone too. That think there aren't anybody going through what you're going through, and that's a very powerful thing.
You've mentioned some of these motivations for like value that you seem to get out of streaming in this particular fashion. But what do you think actually motivates people generally to move toward character streaming or personification in this sort of way, or the theatricality that's involved in this kind of streaming performance? Like initially, what's the kind of thing that you think propels people in that direction?
I don't think there is like a particular thing. Like, you know, there are people like me that want to perform and do something like I said, I grew up doing Mystery Science Theater. There are some people that very much value their anonymity and want to keep themselves more anonymous, and that's fine too. You know, there are some people that just have a crazy idea and want to try it out. Like, I don't think there's anything that will draw anybody to it other than they have an idea and decide that they want to do it.
Yeah, I think I mean, because BizSnes's motivations and mine are very different. Mine was I said this before we went live, and I've actually said this before to other people. Was I had the stuff to do this? I had this puppet. He was actually supposed to be like a cross between Triumph the Insult Comic Dog and the most interesting man in the world. And his name was Samuel Manuel Hidalgo Guadalupe, and Sammy to his friends. So probably not you.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
That was the joke. Sammy to his friends. So probably not you. You know, because like he just doesn't like anybody. But that when that fell through, I kind of took and redid his costume, and it totally changed his attitude. You know, like his visual attitude. And I was like, wouldn't it be funny if I started streaming on Twitch? Wouldn't it be funny? And I actually made the joke to my wife. I said, wouldn't it be funny? Like, I'm going to start streaming. We already know that's going to happen. Like, I'll probably do it for about a week. But wouldn't it be funny if, like, within a month, Benny was partnered? It was like I was.
Wouldn't that be funny?
Wouldn't it?
It was like I was. It was very prophetic. Everything I said was extremely prophetic. Yes, it would be funny. Other people would think it was funny, and everything that I said happened, and it got me into a situation I couldn't get out of. And I think it actually brings up an important point. Had that not happened, would I continue to do it? I don't know. I don't know if I would. I think that's actually a better question. Not what motivates people to do it, but what motivates people to continue to do it.
Sure.
So, like, how much time did you spend building this character before you even started streaming versus, building it as you went along?
That I want to know too, like the preparation, like before you click that button the first time.
So for me, it was mostly wardrobe, because my puppet he had a suit, he had a completely different visual attitude, and he had like a toupee that was glued to his head, and I had to cut that off. He had a toupee. He had this yeah. The color of his eyebrows was the color of that toupee.
Wow.
And it just
I would love to
work.
see that.
Yeah, are there any pictures?
Can we bring that back?
With the class?
I'm sure there are. The guy that made the puppet sent me pictures, so I'm sure I've got the pictures somewhere. But I actually like cut that off and then put the I found the beanie. I found like a kid's beanie and put it on him, and got him in like this kid's like gaming t-shirt and in a hoodie, and I was like, oh well, now he looks like the guy that just hasn't moved out of his mom's house yet. And that's kind of where like I started to build on it, and literally I built for about a week on this idea of like this is what he is. And so I still had kind of was using the voice that I had envisioned for him originally, and that has sort of I've sort of dropped that because I don't feel like it was doing him justice. But but yeah, it was only like I only spent about a week
That's super
putting this thing
those
together.
were like kind of co-developed there, right? Is like you didn't just have a raw idea, strict idea, and you're like, yes, what do I have to do that adheres to this to make that happen? But a bit of a like modifying here and then changing the personality and then changing the visuals again and the dynamic and the aesthetic. That's really interesting.
Well, and the other thing that kind of fed into that is that I've worked with startups for the last like 10 years. It's all I've done. Like I build an application and sell it, build an application and sell it. And the very first thing you do is what's called the MVP, the minimum viable product. And you push on that as quick as you possibly can. Get it out there, get people using it. And that's kind of the mentality that I've just sort of started. Whenever I've got an idea, it's always like, let me get it out there as quickly as possible. How fast can I do that?
The South Park method.
Exactly. I mean, it's exactly it. You go from concept to deployment as quickly as possible. And so like Benny kind of came from that sort of ethos.
So for me, it was the exact opposite of that. It was years. Because like I said, it started as a regular Nintendo where like it was going to be like kind of more of like a grandpa kind of thing, and the slot was gonna open and close, and then
I would pay to see Grandpa BizSnes.
Grandpa Ness. Yeah. Still possibly a thing along with the Dreamcast Ghost because it died before its time, so it has unfinished business. So of course it would be a ghost, but there was gonna be like a whole family of them
with chains all over it.
Yeah. Right, exactly. There was gonna like essentially I was just like, well, I can turn every single video game console into a character for this show then.
I will contribute all of my back collection that was damaged in the storm.
I've got a used video game store connection now that is very, very awesome. So he's letting me pull consoles at will. But
well, these are all damaged, so they're not going to be used for anything else. So.
Oh, sweet. We'll talk later.
We'll talk.
But then I looked at the SNES and I was just like, oh my god, this is just like so much more of a face than the Nintendo. Like I got to do it with this. And so I originally didn't have the light up eyes. I just had the mouth that moved, and then I had a little bit of movement out of the purple rectangles. And there was another guy who like had built a puppet for a show that my friend was in, and so. I was given to this guy to like work on because I was like, hey, I would like the eyebrows to like move up and down, and I would like the mouth to be like servo controlled instead of analog. And he's just like, oh yeah, sure. And he came back with with my eyes now, and he's just like, I thought they looked more like eyebrows. And I'm like, okay, well that's nice. And he's just like, oh yeah, I just left the wire in there for the mouth though. I'm like, well, that's kind of like what I wanted you to do. So for a long time I struggled with the whole idea of like, well, how am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to stream like with this thing? And so the first game I streamed was Chrono Trigger, and I mapped all the controls to the left-hand side of an Xbox controller and just tugged on the wire to make the mouth move and stuff like that. But there's footage of SNES with a different voice because like I said, I didn't want to be the voice of him. I wanted to be the person on the couch next to him. So I there's actually like a news report with somebody else being the voice of SNES, and it went through a lot of iterations. And then it's kind of weird because I couldn't get anybody to help me in Milwaukee. Like all the people that I had known for years and stuff like that, I couldn't get to help me except for my best friend, who was the one that I moved to Seattle with. And he asked me to move on my birthday. And my first response was like, well, what are you getting, a divorce? Because like, he had 4 kids at this point. And he's just like, no, but we don't want to pull the kids out of school early. I'm moving to Seattle now, though. I don't want to live alone. Do you want to live with me? And I was like, absolutely, because I was going to move out there with this guy a couple of years earlier. And then he met his fiance and fell back in love, and then moved back home to like help raise their kids and stuff like that together. So living with this guy was a dream come true. And then I find out that he rented an impodment, which is essentially adult-sized dorm rooms. So we lived essentially in like dorm room quarters in bunk beds together.
What?
It's like a step down from studio apartment. Wow.
Yeah, like there was a hot plate and like a sink, and that sink was for both the bathroom with the standing shower and the toilet, with nothing else in it, and for the kitchen as well. Like,
and couldn't honestly, stream because the RA would get mad.
Well, honestly, we streamed there the most, and it was honestly the best living situation that I had in Seattle. which is funny in a completely different story. But like we were brothers. We're hetero life mates. You know, he's the silent Bob to my Jay, and that's where the stream started. And like he helped me out by like being there and playing the games with me, and essentially being the person that I wanted Joe to be on the couch. And that was for like 6 months, and it was absolutely wonderful, and it was great. And like I honestly miss living with him in that tiny space, because all we did was create. Like when we weren't working on this show, we were working on something else, and it was just absolutely wonderful.
So you guys have ways, I guess, to automatically move or do things to shortcut your movements so that you can actually play the game. Especially like Benny, you play shooters, like that requires pretty good concentration.
There's no automation. Like
there's no automation here.
Really?
Either.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all analog.
Yeah, it's I play games with my right hand and I control Benny with my left.
Wow.
What?
Like that's literally how it's done.
Wow.
I use a drum pedal.
Matter of fact, that's become like a big deal for me, is doing that. I've kind of like I've started to very early on. Sorry, I don't want to make this sound like it was something that I've just come to this conclusion. Very early on, I kind of started to empathize with people that maybe had a stroke or a heart attack and lost control of the left hand side of their body, because like for them, like I'm seeing a lot of like wow in chat, like, you know, for these guys, no, this is their life, man. This is how they have to live. It's not it shouldn't be incredible for you to hear that and say like, wow, that's amazing. No, because these people have got to do this. This is how if they want to go back to like living a life where they get to play games, they've got to figure that out. And so recently, one of the things I've started doing is if I send out like a pitch deck or a wrap up of like, hey, I partnered with you on this game, these are the numbers, I'll send them like all the information on how it is I played their game, so that they know like these are the pitfalls you're going to fall into. These are things I think I would do if I were you to make your game more accessible to somebody who is, you know, impaired. Because I feel like there's a section of gamers that are not served. And
oh yeah,
absolutely,
is a big thing.
Yeah, we just immediately assume, well, I mean, they just can't. No, they can. And like literally, I don't have any special controllers. Like I don't have like, you know, anything specifically for this purpose. It's something you can go down. It's stuff you can go down to Best Buy and buy. Like I said, elegant, simple solutions to complex problems. That's what I've been doing since I started.
I have complex solutions to simple problems.
Most people do. Most people like find the most.
Take the opposite approach.
Most people find the most complex solution to the simple problem.
Well, and it's about being simple too, because like I've done events on stage where you can literally see me behind the puppet, like you can see my legs crossed behind the puppet, and I've come off stage and people like be like, wow, is that like animated? It's like, no, it's literally me tugging a string at the right time, you know, like there's nothing crazy about it. And so it's just like I was tired of everybody thinking it was face rig. Like that was the biggest thing that I had to overcome with the green screen was that everyone
happens a lot.
Everyone just thinks so much face rig.
Screen,
it's like,
so
feel like that.
Really, have you seen a face rig this good? Have you really seen one this good?
You know, so that's why, you know, like roommates started like sticking both hands in the shot, and like we have a pipe and we light it and the eyes change from white to red, because like then people see it's a physical thing. And like when I started, it was very important for me to have a physical, you know, SNES that I could take around to conventions and stuff like that, because that just makes him that much more real. You know, like for people to be able to like actually hold him and like take a picture, I think is a really, really great thing, because it just makes him that much more real in people's minds, as opposed to, you know, just ones and zeros.
And do you think that's something of value more on a personal basis to y'all too, that with this approach? Or do you think this is like maybe something that's a better consideration in general for a certain reason that maybe I'm missing? Like why somebody would choose to do that? What if that's something that you would recommend people to consider over and above an alternative, if for those people out there who are considering doing something like this?
So I guess the best example that I can give, that I've been giving, is the journalist Hunter S. Thompson, who is responsible for gonzo journalism, which, if you don't know what gonzo journalism is the whole idea that the better part of the story is not so much the story, but your experience with the story.
Mhm.
So, you know, when Hunter S. Thompson got his start, it was because he wrote this scathing article on the Kentucky Derby from his viewpoint as a lower middle class person just getting wasted at this affair with all these people at this just drunk rich escapade. And people loved it, not because he went to journalism school and did the, you know, MLA style format of, okay, I went to the Kentucky Derby, they won this races. Like, he had his chance and he made the more interesting story his experience about it. And so he got into the position where he wasn't sure if people wanted to meet him or this personified character, Raoul Duke.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Raoul Duke, that's right.
right. And so it's really one of those things. It's like
Interesting.
some people, you know, like for me, the reason that I really started getting into acting and stuff like this was because I was a very sick kid. My kidney was the wrong shape and my doctor didn't catch it until I was 16 years old. So I was considered this liar and this faker. And I always looked sick and weird because that's just how I looked. And so, you know, when you get, oh, are you tired? You look tired. You look sick every day. Like, it's kind of annoying. But like when you can get up on stage and put on makeup and be this character for an hour and a half, well, people are going to remember you for that character instead of the person that looks sick or looks tired or is kind of exhausted right now. So for me, it's kind of like putting on that affront. Like, I think you don't necessarily have to go full Bennyfits or SNES to be a character. You can figure out the best ways to personify why people should be watching you play video games and make that your character.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think John Hodgman put it well in oh crap, what was his first book? You know
I have
what?
no idea.
He wrote a 3-part almanac, basically of fake facts. And in the first one, he wrote that nothing is more interesting than lies, and for that part, nothing's more true. And I think that's actually it's not exactly what he said, but I think it's an interesting thought that if I tell you a story, you'll buy into that way more than if I just gave you a series of actual facts. So if I tell you a compelling story that you can join in and be a part of and feel like this is now part of my world, that becomes something that's so much easier for you to buy into and to enjoy than if I were to just tell you, like, well, you know, Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated and that was the beginning of World War II. You know, no, I mean, like, that's just not going to be as interesting for you. I don't even actually know that that's right. That might be a fake fact.
I think that was World War One.
I realized it as soon as I said it. Like, no, wait a minute, you're thinking World War One. But I mean, that's the sort of thing that, like, people want to buy into this, and I think having actually the question that you were asking was does having a physical thing matter? And I think it actually does. Yeah. Going to TwitchCon, that's the number one thing people will ask is, where's Benny? I want to get a picture with Benny. My first TwitchCon, I was nowhere near Benny. Somebody else had him, and I stayed away from him because it's very much not about me. Not like, I don't want to be the center of attention. I'm happy to talk about about how things are done, and I'm happy to kind of be myself. But the stream is all for Benny, like that, because people want that character. So the trouble is that people would see, like, oh, they'd see the name tag and they're like, oh, can I get a picture with Benny? I don't have him. I've got to direct you now to somebody else who may be on a completely different floor of the convention center. Yeah. So I started carrying him with me. But that's the thing, is like, people, they want to get their picture with Benny. They want to say, like, look, I met this thing. It's a real thing. It's not like it's not just a picture that's on a screen. And that's not to say you can't do that. But some people want that meta layer in their real life, you know? And I think if you can pull that off, you'll make a lot of people very happy.
Absolutely. Like, I walked up to Snoop Dogg with and it was just awesome, like being able to give this thing over to Snoop Dogg and have him interact with it. It's wonderful. Man, there's something about the tangibility of it. And and then I'm very much upfront. Like, I'm a Jim Henson kind of guy. Like, I love my creations, but I am not my creation. So it's like, I will be happy to tell you how it works and stuff like that. And my fun thing is, like, whenever anybody asks how it works, before I will tell them, I always ask how they think it works, because it's always fun hearing
Yeah.
all the wonderful theories,
Yeah.
you know, of how people think it works. And like, you know, none of those people have ever come into my chat when people are asking questions and ruin it for anybody. They just go along with it, and they're happy to know, because they feel like they are then like, oh man, I'm in on this. Like, I do know how the magician does his trick, and there's all these other people that their minds are blown by this, but I'm totally in on it. So
you don't mind sharing that kind of stuff?
absolutely. As somebody, like, I love characters. I think it's great that anybody wants to be a character streamer. I want anybody who wants to be a character streamer to do this. So if I can ever give anybody any advice or tips on how to do this, and that's what's been really great about the character community on Twitch, is that there's never been any animosity between like any of the characters. Like,
now, how broad is it? Because like
it's broad.
It's pretty big. It's getting bigger. It gets bigger. So just doing puppets. There's me, and I'm not the first. I'm like number 3. Actually number 4 behind SNES, I guess. Because there was a sock puppet. There's SNES, there's Phil the Drill, who I don't know if he's streaming anymore. And then there's me, there's Say Hey Rocco, there's Felton Around, there's Dorak, there's oh man, I've got to remember this guy's name. Ralphie, or Raffy. There's no L, it's Raffy. R-A-P.
Or IRL Larry, that's a new one.
IRL Larry.
Well.
Jeez, how did I forget Larry? Larry is amazing. And the thing is, like, as I say this a lot. I don't want you to just do this. I want you to do it better than me.
Yeah.
Because so long as it's just me and SNES who've got the check mark, it's a gimmick. But if more people can repeat the process and also get partnered, then it's not a gimmick anymore. This is a repeatable thing. You can just go do this and people enjoy it. You know, it's not like I tricked them into giving me a check mark, you know?
Yeah, it's not a gimmick. It's a subgenre. It is something, you know, the more the characters are there, the more hey, it's not just this idea. No, like, we are here, we're here to stay, we're a big part of this. And, you know, it shows it, like, Twitch is still such a, like, in the grand scheme of entertainment, it's still us against Major League Sports, against American Idol, against TV, against HBO. And so it's just like, the more of us that we can surround ourselves with, you know, a rising tide raises all boats. Like, we are not, no streamer should feel in competition with any other streamer, because we are in competition with every other entertainment medium. And the same way that people are talking about YouTube 10 years ago is how they're just starting to talk about Twitch now.
Yeah, Twitch has not been Twitch has only been mainstream for like 2 years. I mean, really mainstream.
If you walk outside right now and you ask 5 people, hey, have you watched something on Twitch? At least 3 of them probably will still say no.
Yeah.
You know, there is still so much untapped market. There is still so much untapped potential there, that it's just like, yeah, come to Twitch. You can see a talking cat. You can see a talking furry blue guy. You can see a talking video game system.
Well, so what is the range of, because like I've seen a Pet Rock.
Yes.
I've seen voiceless puppets.
Perception Check too. Jeez.
Perception Check? Oh, is it
Perception? Yeah, they're 2 puppets. They play video games and D&D. They do D&D. They actually were on a side stage at TwitchCon 2 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they have like a Saturday morning cartoon.
And they're great.
And then like the character animator side is just as insane. Like Scribbly Scribs is just like absolutely insane. And Kazler, I honestly think is the best of the up and comers, let's just say, as far as like his production value and wanting to work with other character streamers. Like, he's a raid boss on Drumming PC's channel. He is like, it's like I said, it's just so fucking cool. To see everybody working together so much, because it, like, that's what I want. Because I truly believe like the time of independent streaming is coming to an end, and we need to work together. Like, as an improver, the reason that I picked improv over stand-up entertainment is because stand-up is so vulnerable and it's so solo and it's not fun. And when you fail, like, you fail by yourself. But when you're on an improv team, it's like, the reason that I started getting improv shows was not because I was the funniest person in the room. It was because I was a good straight man, and I was really good at reacting to those funny people. And that's just as important as those people being funny. And so it's just like, when you have a group and you can let people take those different roles as opposed to trying to do all of them yourself, it's just so much better. So the more that we can get people together to like play together, I think is just going to make everybody's content stronger.
Yeah, and your particular niche, even as a character streamer, is limited to the people that want to see that. Like not everybody that likes Gravity Falls also likes Rick and Morty.
Exactly.
I mean, they're two very different iterations of the same thing.
Well, so what are the downsides of this? Like, what are hazards, pitfalls, things about which we should be aware if we were intrigued by this and wanting to step into?
I mean, there will always be those people that want to invade your anonymity, which is why I've kind of turned it into like a joke. Whenever anybody gets to like, oh, show us your real face, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, first of all, I'm trapped in here. My roommate looks and sounds exactly like me because we're identical twins. So, I've embraced it as a part of who I am. Like, oh, hey, no, like if I wasn't trapped in here, we would look exactly the same. And then if they keep at it, it's linked to a video that's, Joe next to the puppet, almost going how it like, all right, clearly it's a puppet. Good. Do you feel better now? Here's exactly how it works. And they get rickrolled in 2019, which is awesome. So I'm still rickrolling people in 2019, and then they come back and there's a laugh about it. So, there's a way to disarm people about it, but it can be hard. Like I do a lot of like, oh, well, roommate stories. Because I do have kind of a hard time separating, and I like talking about.
I was gonna ask about
stuff,
that.
you know, so I just kind of make it the same.
and so, like, what about like the characters' like interests and personalities? Like, how much does that align with you as a person? Like, did you guys build characters like with is it unique or does it overlap? Is it the same?
I'd say for Benny is a lot of what I wish I was. Like there's a lot of like, I mean, he's sort of an innocent. He doesn't get like adult humor. He makes some of those. He makes those like DreamWorks style like adult jokes that like the kids don't get it, but the parents are gonna get it. Like to the kids, it just sounds like I'm
Just
making
scoots right over the head.
Right, like the whole Friends with Bennyfits thing was like, oh, that'll be great, and it's safely anonymous, in terms of like adult humor. It's a single entendre that the kids are just, oh yeah, well, I'm your friend. That's right. So like that kind of thing's not me. I in the real world when I'm working, it's F-bombs and like it's full on adult situations in my real life. But I think when I flip that switch, when I say I'm this character, I'm like, that's the line that's drawn. Like somebody comes in and says, do a face reveal, for instance, and it's nope. Okay, well, all right. Well, so I swipe Benny's hand over his face, and that's that classic, like from a frown to a smile sort of thing. And it's like, oh, there we go. There's the face. There it is. Like, I'm never going to show you that part of me. I'm just never going to show you that part. That's probably not the question you just asked. I just know it was. I'm just riffing off of what BizSnes just said.
It is related.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, because like I have kids. I've got a wife, and I value that anonymity. And people coming in and trying to break that, I can't tolerate it because so I can't tolerate it. And the way that I choose to diffuse it, the way that I try to get around that is to just not address it in a way that they want me to address it.
Yeah. And it plays into it then, and it's a fun part of it.
Like, why would Benny know any of that stuff? He doesn't. He's a character. He doesn't know. But like somebody will say, well, how does it feel to have a hand up your like, Benny doesn't know.
Yeah.
Why would you ask him that question? Benny wouldn't know. Benny doesn't know he's a puppet.
Yeah.
For me, it's definitely a little bit. The character is essentially me, but like kind of turned up to 11. Like I'll yell at video games, but like when I'm on stream, I will yell at video games because I frankly think it's like one of the best things to yell at. I don't like yelling at people in real life or getting mad at people in real life, but it's never gonna get like sad or upset that I like yelled as a video game, like it killed me. It's probably my fault. So, I'm yelling at this thing instead. And, but another part of it is just like I've lived an interesting life, and, some of it has been really, really awesome and good. And a part of it has been really terrible and awful. And I think it's important for people to know that like you can't do something this good without having a lot of crap that you've dealt with in your past. And sometimes like I will never say that I do therapy, but like it's essentially story therapy. Like if somebody tells me something that's going on, like heck yeah, I'll drop a story about something similar that's happened, just so you know that like you're not alone. The reason that I do this is not because I want to be like the biggest streamer on the planet. Like I want to make movies. Like I will make movies in my life, but like whenever I hit start broadcast, it's like inviting all of my friends over to my big internet couch. Like I didn't have friends until I finally got to high school. Like once summer vacation started until like even sophomore year, it was like I was alone for summer or with my cousins. And, the first way that I got, people to start coming over in high school was I would buy, the newest big video game. I would beat it as quickly as I could. And then I would invite that person over because I knew they didn't get the game yet. And that's how I kind of, like I had to, essentially buy my friends at the beginning just because like nobody wanted to hang out with me.
I still
But
do
like, so it's
Well,
just
as an
like,
adult, you have purchasing power too.
Yeah,
right, like you don't have to wait for your mom to buy the game. And so
yeah.
for me, like it was very much like my stream will always be somewhere that isn't like a lucrative money source. It is a big internet couch for all of those kids that just want somewhere to hang out with somebody like-minded and talk about punk rock music or movies or whatever the topic is for the day, because that's like the most important thing. Like if I didn't have chat, if I was just like staring at a video game endlessly, like talking to myself, there's no way I would do this. But
Yeah.
like the chat is what makes it. The fact that I can know what's going on, and I know that I have like air traffic controllers and lawyers and custodians and teachers and artists in my channel from all over the world that are here. That's why I never like playing like the biggest video game that's out. Like I will always find those niche games because the people that come in and watch it freaking love those games, and you can always get the best stories out of them. Like, what does this game mean to you? Why after 20 years are you still looking for people that are playing this video game, and those are the people that I want in my channel that just love video games and want to talk about video games. And so it's like, yeah, you're having a bad day, tell the puppet what's going on. You're not technically telling a human being, but like he's got a lot of human stories to tell you.
I wanted to comment on two things you said. Number one, yelling at games is fine. Like I totally agree. And the key point, I've been playing a lot of PvP in Destiny 2 lately. And I don't normally PvP. Normally my social anxiety won't let me happen. But won't let that happen. But recently I've been doing it a lot, and I've noticed that like Benny will a lot of times will go, "What? Like what? What just that?" Like, and I've thought to myself, that could come off of like people could see that as kind of aggressive. Like I'm angry. I'm actually not angry. I'm incredulous because I have no idea where the shot that killed me came from. Like how in the world did how are people this good at this game? I mean, I want to be that good. It's going to be a struggle for me. It's going to be a real struggle because I've put myself at an intentional disadvantage. But
Yeah.
And the other thing was fostering a sense of community and the idea that I don't want to be number one streamer. I don't either. Like, no, I actually don't need to stream to make money. I don't need to stream for anything really. I've got a perfectly fine career. I'm taking care of a family. I'm a-okay. If I got there, I'm not saying I would be like, oh no, I don't want to be like that guy. But it's honestly not my goal. And I struggled with that for a while because I struggled with looking at numbers and going, maybe this quote unquote gimmick really is just a gimmick. But once I started focusing on the people that come in and are like, this is what I want to see every night. This is what I want to see. Like, I want to be here and I want to be talking to you. Like, once I started focusing on that, my entire outlook changed. The numbers became a meditation, not a ball and chain that I'm trying to constantly drag around with me.
I'm just so mesmerized by your guys' stories that I just got lost in the thought. We do have a question from chat. Sager Rage asked, "Do you two find that there's a lot of upkeep and maintenance for character streaming?"
I'm gonna jump in on this one, because here's the thing. I know BizSnes. If the puppet was destroyed tomorrow, you could make another one. I have some major concerns, because Benny's one of a kind. I'd have to have him remade, and I've actually. So okay. True story. My partner spotlight, the week of my partner spotlight, that Wednesday, halfway through the week, I had just gotten a chocolate lab puppy. And yeah,
I'm already worried.
Benny sits on a basically what was an old light stand, and I had him sitting on the floor, and I'm happily working away coding, writing some code, and I step up, go outside, check the mail, come back in. Benny's eyes are chewed, completely gone. His eyes are gone.
No.
The teeth are chewed out of his mouth. His tongue has been chewed out, and I am in panic.
What happened to Benny?
I contact my clients to say I'm not working for the rest of the day. I've had a minor emergency, and went to town, picked up that. I was streaming that night. I'll just put it that way. Like I figured out, I learned a lot about what he's made of.
Wow.
And I can do minor repairs, but I could never rebuild him. And I have serious concerns about how much longer this puppet will last before I need to replace him.
Keep him in a glass case, lock it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Every night.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, nobody noticed. I mean, I must have done a fairly good job because nobody has noticed the slight differences in the puppet.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna have some detectives try to suss that out.
I don't think I don't think a lot of that content. I don't think that there are videos that you could actually do real comparison on, because he's actually changed over time as well. Just like in the way that I've started to comb him before stream, and done some things to kind of keep him up. But of things that are a problem for him right now are is some of his furs starting to fall out, and I'm having to Henson stitch him a lot, which is a stitch where you kind of do like a star pattern and then pull it so that the cloth gets kind of drawn in, kind of like an iris, and so that covers any patches where fur might not be there. And I'm also a little concerned that maybe he's starting to get a little dirt on his hands. So I'm having to think I'm gonna hang him up on the wall again.
That's fair. I have a question for you guys that I just thought of. So with streaming, we always try to come up with some new innovative ideas to keep things fresh, right? What is, if any, some things that you guys have done to bring some fresh content, maybe change something up for your guys' streams?
Well, when I started this, I always kind of planned for it to kind of branch into different things. So for a little while, we had a character stream. We had a character team, and it was me, El Dirty Squirrel, Scribbly, Flaming Monocle, Trightmare, and it was awesome. And we had a Saturday morning adventure time. And then unfortunately, Trightmare got a job, which made a move to Canada, and he was kind of like the rudder on the ship, and it just all kind of fell apart after that, which was pretty unfortunate. But so I've actually, for my own content, for just my regular stream, because I have the whole backstory of Death, cheating. I cheated Death at video games. Death has come back and challenged me to his bucket list of terrible video games. And so I'm really kind of doubling down on the whole Mystery Science Theater style of things. And then as well as I am trying to get another kind of character thing off the ground now, because there are just so many other wonderful characters out there doing things that I would really like to do something like what we were trying to do with Adventure Mode again. But, it's just one of those things. It's so much time and being put in charge of things is just exhausting.
Running a
and
team is
then-
difficult.
Right. And then I recently moved to the moon. So I'm now the highest stream on Twitch.
Oh.
So yeah,
All right. Saturn, here I come.
Yeah, right. Damn it, Benny. Yeah, so I bought the moon base that they faked the moon landing at. So
Oh, right, that one.
Yeah,
Right. The old trope that the moon landing was faked, but it was filmed by Stanley Kubrick, who was such a stickler for detail that he demanded to be filmed on location.
So yeah, they built a base on the moon, and then so they let the Russians waste all of their money first, and then when the Russians started getting a little too close, they then faked another moon landing on the moon. So after that was done, they abandoned the moon base, but it had all of this awesome gear for broadcasting because that was the biggest thing, was that they wanted to make sure that it was broadcast. So I used all that old equipment and I'm now streaming from the moon. So
oh wow, so if you ever have like a point where you're dropping packets or dropping frames, like, oh no, it's just this old tech.
Yeah, it's the old satellite dish. Yeah.
Right.
And you don't have to worry about roommate because we travel back and forth through to Seattle and the moon via the Great Grass Elevator. So it's powered on hemp. Yeah.
Right. So this could actually just be a delusion then.
Yes.
That's great. That's great.
Hunter's having a hard time following.
What was the question? What was the question you just asked? I got so enthralled in what SNES was saying.
Have you ever like doubled down on the character stuff? Like, have you ever introduced more things into?
Yeah, like what kind of changes or innovations have you brought to your stream?
Okay, so that's actually that. I wanted you to re-ask the question because I wanted to remember what my answer was. I actually very recently have done two things. I'm actually changing format slightly with Benny, because I feel like there's only so far you can go with the lovable loser narrative where he's like moved out of he still lives with his mother, moved out of his mother's house to get a real like grown up place to live with grandma. So Benny's actually opening a spawn camp at beautiful Spawn Point.
Oh my
Nobody ever
God.
laughed. Okay, good. Yes. Finally, somebody laughed at that joke.
I love it. I love corny jokes. So,
but that comes along with some other things. Like I have some ideas that are going to branch out from that. But one of the other things is that I very recently have made the conscious decision that I will not play any game that is too adult, and so now all my streams are they're family friendly. But when I say family friendly, I mean mostly like T for teen, like what I call Avengers movie family. Like if you would see it in an Avengers movie and understand that in an Avengers movie, we've seen somebody get their head cut off, so that's on the table so long as it's cartoonish and not gory.
PG-13
right
style.
Something that like you don't have to worry about putting your kids in front of Benny because they're not going to learn some new vocabulary.
That's a fair concern
Right.
too, because I'm sure you do draw in a younger audience just naturally from your aesthetic.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what started that was actually that a lot of people recommend me to parents. And when I saw that, and actually, I did a few out of character streams, and very recently I did one, and somebody came in and said, "Where's Benny?" I said, "Oh, well, it's not. This is out of it's Benny's not here tonight. This is are you his manager?" Yeah, something like that. I guess something like that. And he says, "What does out of character mean?" I said, "It means that there's no character tonight. I'm just me, and I don't save those streams or anything." And about 10 minutes pass, and this person comes back and says, "Okay, when is Benny going to be back?" I said, "Tomorrow." I said, "He'll be back tomorrow." About 5 minutes pass, another message. "Okay, my mom says I can come back tomorrow." I was like, that was when I realized, okay, like this space is solemn. I can't do this thing anymore. I've got to do this somewhere else because I can't let I can't put a child in a position where they have to come to terms with like this thing that I'm watching isn't an act. Like they need to be allowed to immerse themselves without a problem.
Yeah, I understand that.
See, and I'm kind of the exact opposite, and that's awesome because he can appeal to that crowd, and then I am the crowd that is just straight up like, Yep, I'm a Super Nintendo. Like the average median user on Twitch knows what their first system was the PlayStation 2. Like people who know how I am are gonna skew a little older. And like as much as there needs to be content for kids on Twitch like Benny, there also needs to be, the not ready for prime time Muppets to, the Muppets, or like,
Right.
the Muppets are the primetime show. Mystery Science Theater is the show that you wait around until midnight to watch. And,
Yeah.
like I will always be that show for those guys that can't sleep at night, because I'm one of those guys that can't sleep at night.
Also, right.
Like I very much like, kids aren't going to be up and watching at, 10 o'clock at night, Eastern Standard Time,
Well,
like.
I don't know, because like that kid that was late at night, that kid was in France. So,
well, that kid's parents are awesome.
Right. I like that you said the not ready for primetime Muppets, because I'm just now thinking of Chevy Chase and Bill Murray as Muppets.
Well, the Muppets were on Saturday Night Live at first, and it helped give people a little bit like of a taste of what Jim Henson could do, and it helped get them more popular. So it's one of those things. There's like, that's why, whenever anybody is asked, like, do you ever get upset that people are, doing what you do? It's like, no, it is the Muppets to Mystery Science Theater. Like there's a market for everything. And like, I don't hold the market on this. It's not a new idea. I'm not the first person to think of doing this. He's not the first person to think of doing this.
No.
Like even the first people that did it on Twitch aren't probably the first people that thought about doing it, So it's like nobody has, the rights to these ideas. And, it's really cool seeing all the people. I did a character panel with Squirrel and Monocle and Scribs at the third TwitchCon. And the amount of people that were like, hey, I wasn't going to do a character, or, I was thinking about doing a character streamer, and then I was at your panel, and that was finally, what made me do it. Like, that's always such a great feeling to know that, like, what we said helped get people to the point where they felt comfortable doing this instead of being scared to do it. Because that's always so much better than being like, oh, I don't want to step on this person's toes by thinking that, like, yeah, you're stealing my bit, like this is my thing. It's like, no, it's so cool. Come play in the sandbox with us, because I bet you can build something that I can't,
For sure. I mean, judging by just the show alone, like there's been people in chat that have kind of expressed like their interest in getting into this. And so you guys are definitely inspiring people by doing what you do.
I think that's like people that have that attitude of like, no, this is my idea and you can't use, or you can't expound on it. But, you're holding up production, man. Just get out of it.
Yeah, it's boring.
You're holding up production. I mean, like one of my community team actually contacted me when we found out about Say Hey Rocco. We did like first discovery. I'm gonna present this like it's a court case. First discovery on Say Hey Rocco. And they were like, oh, like, what are we going to do? Like, what are we going to do? This is awesome, man. What are you talking about? No, like, I want to see where this goes, because like they're doing a very good job. Rocco is awesome. If you guys haven't seen Say Hey Rocco, you need to go check out Say Hey Rocco.
I have not.
Rocco is amazing. Like, if you think like, oh, wow, Benny is a character, like, no, Rocco stays in character even like in person. Like you'll meet Rocco and she'll have the puppet with her and she's Rocco the entire. I can't do that. Like I can't get over myself enough to do that. Like when I'm sitting in my chair and I'm doing the show, like that's a thing. But in reality, like face to face, I get real. Like that's when I get stage fright, because it's like we're two adults here, right? Talking to each other, like.
Yeah, it's it's kind of like Dr. Disrespect is the same way, where he's in character whenever you meet him, and it's one of those things like there is a point where my improv friends said it was taking off the creative a-hole hat, and some people some people can just stay in character the whole time, and like they can do it and they're with it. But sometimes like I just when I'm not in front of the screen, that is my time to like connect with the audience a little bit more. And if they if they want to know how it's done and stuff like that, the fact that it isn't on screen and like they have made the conscious effort to like approach me in public, because I know how scary that is. like I will absolutely, kind of come down to earth with them.
That's the correct context for that question as well. It's not like in the middle of the stream, how do you do this? Like that's not the time to do it.
Right, exactly.
You're asking me to stop the show, stop the momentum we have right now, jump out of character, give you a synopsis on how it's done, then jump back into character. You're asking Patrick Stewart to stop being Othello in the 90s. And drop out and say like, all right, so this is how we did this. I got a bunch of African Americans, and they're all going to be the rest of the cast, and I'm going to be Othello. See how this is working? Okay, now back to it. I'm now Othello, more of Venice. Like that's like no. You don't do that. Ask him after the show when he's off the clock.
Yeah, what was if there's a time and a place for that, if they have sometimes they have question and answer sections after that. Like that would be the perfect time to ask something like that.
Or during shows like this that we do here every week. Unfortunately, that is going to wrap it up for today. But before you guys go, I do want to ask you guys one last question. If you could give one piece of advice to someone who is looking to get into being a character streamer, what would you say to them?
I would say go with your instinct. Don't try to overthink it. Just go with your instinct. And if you need help, like the person that you think won't help you, you're better off asking them than forever thinking, well, they just won't help me.
We have a Discord too. It's called Character Select. So
I'm not on that Discord. I need to be on it.
But it's where a bunch of us hang out, and then we have sections on analog puppetry as well as character animator, and everybody, it's one of those things. Everybody in the community wants to help everybody out. Like they want to be a part of it. They want to hang out, and they want, it's just everybody needs a place to gather. So we try to do that for people.
And if you have the link to that, feel free to drop it in the chat to that Discord that you're talking about.
Okie dokie. I might not have the permissions to do it because my roommate started it, because he's technically the one that runs the server. But everybody just bottle.
I was about to ask the same question.
No, actually, we live with the actual roommate. His name is Baron Sheep. So just bother him on Twitter.
Oh, that's your roommate.
Oh, Baron Sheep's your roommate.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Well, and the way that we met was he scouted me for this adventure mode team, and it was just him and Trightmare and this other guy at first. And we started having weekly meetups, and we did weekly meetups for a year with myself, Scrib, Flaming Monocle, Trightmare, and El Dirty Squirrel, and they were absolutely wonderful. And we got together and we talked, and like we were planning a show like no one had ever seen before. Like we were all streaming to one place and then broadcasting out to all of the channels, but also combining all of the content. So like we could be playing a first-person shooter where we're all in the same team, and we had a director that could hot swap from, so you could see Scrib's view, and then you could see Trightmare's view, and then you could see my view. And it was like really, really exciting, and it was really, really fun. So that's stuff that's definitely going to be coming back soon. Because
awesome.
That is stuff that I miss and would like to see happening more. But we all had like our own little segments. Like Scribs had a Scribsplain section, and whenever you have a Norwegian trying to explain things that he just learned about Americans is like super wonderful and stuff like that. Like we played to each other's strengths, and it's unfortunate that it died when it did. But Trightmare had the bulk of the technology that we were using to put that show on, and it was such a monumental task that the whole idea of starting it over was, it's just one of those things that we had to kind of focus on some other things and stuff like that. But we are truly stronger together than we are apart. And you will never find a character that is like, you stepped on my toes, you're doing what I'm doing. You will only find love here, because that's all that we really want to do. We just want to give people an awesome space to hang out and do something creative, and everybody needs that.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah, if you do find somebody like that, let us know, because the Character Mafia wants to talk to them.
Yeah, right?
Well, Benny, Biz, thank you guys so much for joining us on the show today. It has been fantastic, absolutely delightful. If you guys could tell us where we can find you on the internet and what you're streaming, we'd love to shout you guys out.
You can find me at Bennyfits on Twitch. I'm playing mostly Destiny 2 right now, but we're getting into the Halloween time, so I've got some spoopy games. That's the word that are they still using spoopy?
Yeah,
The
I think
kids,
so.
I
I
think so,
still
yeah.
do.
Sometimes
I'm a very old man, so you can find me on Twitter at Bennyfits TV. I couldn't secure Bennyfits, and I think that guy is basically locked down his Twitter because of me. Because
Aw.
everybody's always mentioning him when they talk about
Yeah.
me.
I am BizSnes, BizSnes, on just about everything. I'm streaming Rockstar games right now because it's Rocktober. I like to give people an alternative to the spooky games, so I go through some of the Rockstar games, some of the well-known ones, and some of the lesser-known ones, like Ping Pong and Thrasher. So it's pretty fun. I also, if there's anybody in the Seattle area, in November I am teaching a 4-week improv class specifically for content creators called Improv for Content Creators.
Wow.
So yeah, it's the second time that I've been doing this. I did this and I got to teach kind of a crash course at TwitchCon, which was something that just was over the moon awesome.
yeah.
But so if you ever need like any improv tips or anything, feel free to message me on Twitter. I'd be happy to reach out.
That's
Cool.
really cool. Awesome. Thank you guys. Hunter, what about you? What are you up to?
I may have changed my schedule to start streaming at 4 p.m. instead of 5. I don't know. We'll find out. But I am going to be streaming Surviving the Aftermath over on twitch.tv/thehunterwild shortly after this show. You can also find me on Twitter at thehunterwildtv, and right here every Monday for this show next to my incredible, wonderful, and brilliant co-owner, host of the Stream Scene and Streamer Square, Loco. What about you? What about yourself?
Hi. You can find me at twitch.tv/LOWCO. I am playing The Sims 4. Weirdly enough,
Yeah,
it's been
that's right.
fantastic. And I just love living with my mods and taking care of them. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be probably checking out Outer Worlds later this week. And doing some spooky stuff next week for Halloween. So, if you guys enjoyed this show, definitely make sure to follow the channel. We are here every single week. We do several shows here on the Twitch channel, so make sure to follow us. You can also find us on Twitter, YouTube, and our website. We're Streamer Square everywhere. So make sure to check us out if you guys enjoyed the show. We also do put the show up on Anchor. So if you guys missed any episodes, you can always listen on your podcasting platform. Just look up Stream Scene. And last but not least, if you enjoyed the show and you want to support what we do, check us out on Patreon. You can get cool behind the scenes videos. We do coaching and much, much more. And you can support what we do here so we can do more of it. So thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next week for the Stream Scene. Have a great rest of your Monday.
Bye.